Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat Podcast, where in this edition, unfortunately, we'll be talking about Tottenham's defeat at home against Bournemouth. We have just lost 3-2 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I'll be honest, I'm absolutely lost for words after that performance, after that result. We are fifth in the Premier League. We could have gone fourth today, but every single time that we seem to be in a position where we can do something, we bottle it. A really, really poor display, a really, really poor result. But I've got three very special guests to talk about today's game. Back with us is comedian Jake Lambert. Jake, how are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. Well, personally, my personal life, everything away from Tottenham, brilliant. As soon as you add Tottenham into the mix, woeful.
Jake, we won't talk about Tottenham for now. We'll come on to that. But,
should we just not talk about it at all? Should we just talk about the Grand National or something?
Well, I was going to talk about you've just started up a podcast and you've got a tour coming up. Tell us all about that.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's I've got a tour. I'm just doing a work in progress at the minute, so every time it's a bit of a mess, just sort of putting it all together and making sure that when it comes to it, I'm ready. Sort of the complete opposite to the Tottenham principle, I think. So I'm making sure I do all the work and I deliver when it comes to it. But sorry, not to mention Tottenham. Other than that, my podcast then is called Make It Better, which each week we take a different topic and discuss how we'd make it better. We are yet to do an episode on Tottenham, but when we do...
That's exactly where I was going. I was going to be like, your next subject has got to be Tottenham, and I'd love to hear what you had to say about that one, Jake.
We've also got actor Ricky Norwood back with us. Rick, how are you?
Mate, do you know what? I mean, I'm disappointed. I'm frustrated, but I've got to have a giggle with it because I had, like after having a week off last week, I had a little bit of work last week. I was supposed to be on with you last week, Chris, but couldn't do it. But it gave me a bit of a rest from this madness that is Tottenham Hotspur. So I came back a bit re-energized, and I'll tell you why throughout the rants, why I was a little bit re-energized and what kind of prompted me to be re-energized. So going into today's game, I had my fingers crossed. I really did. I had my fingers and toes crossed, and there was nothing that there was nothing to say that we should have lost this game today. But my goodness gracious, the way we kick ourselves in the backside is unbelievable. But look, we'll get in. I'm happy to be back on, and I'm going to try and look at it from a different point. I know, Chris, I know, mate, but I'm going to try and look at it from a different point of view. Hopefully I can get through that point of view before you get escorted out by security again, from the old Tottenham Hotspur ground. And and it's not as frustrating as all of us feel. But I'm disappointed as hell, mate. I'm disappointed as hell. I'm frustrated as hell. But it's almost what is to be expected when you watch Tottenham nowadays.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I was in the pub before the game, and a number of Spurs fans, as normal, come up to me and said, "What do you think today?" And I said, "I don't know what to expect today. I can see us winning. I can see us losing. I can see us drawing. The performance, the result today is just abysmal." We've also got channel regular Craig Dearman back with us. Craig, how are you feeling? How are you?
Oh, pissed off. I'm like the others, just lost for words, to be honest with you. It's just it's like an endless cycle of absolute rubbish. And today just took the biscuit. I'm absolutely fuming. No positives come out of today for me. And to make matters worse, I'm just watching the National in the background. I think my horse has just fallen over. So yeah, I'll mute myself till this is finished. But yeah, terrible again. Great day.
Let's start the show with you, Jake. Give me your thoughts on today's game, Jake. Did you expect that performance? Did you expect that result today?
I didn't know what I expected. I had no idea what it was going to be, but I assumed it would be us going at them a little bit, and usually we go at them and they concede and then we do so. This time it was the other one. There's basically, if it feels like our games go either two ways. One of them is we'll go and score first, then they equalise, or they come and score, then we equalise. That seems to be always what happens, but either way, it doesn't work in our favour by the end of it. I don't know what I was expecting. I thought at the start, I was watching on links, so I dipped in and out. I thought at the start they were coming at us a lot stronger than I thought they would, considering they'd turned up an hour before the game. They'd clearly had a nightmare. The game had started late. I thought they would be completely on the back. We looked like the team who hadn't had a chance to warm up. Then we started to take control. When things started to come together, it flashes. It looked quite good. Perisic and Son, I think, were linking up better than I've seen them do all season, I think. But then it's such chaos. The results are so chaotic and the games are so chaotic that it's quite hard to sort of summarize exactly what you've just seen or what you've just felt or what's just happened. Which I assume is why they can't seem to fix it amongst themselves, because I can't even see where the problem is. It seems like we've got about 3 or 4 players who deserve to be there, and then they're sort of carrying the weight of the majority of the squad. Would that seem right to you?
Jake, how do you feel during that game? A number of Spurs fans again were singing Mauricio Pochettino's name. A number of Spurs fans were, I know we're going to get into the game shortly, but a number of Spurs fans were booing Davinson Sanchez, who come on as a sub, end up going off as a sub.
Yeah.
Everything just seems an absolute mess right now.
Yeah, I feel it is. It's the whole thing. Everything's being pulled in different ways, isn't it? It's what I remember Lloris saying it a few years ago when we went out disappointingly in, I think maybe the FA Cup, one of them. We always go out and it's disappointing. And I remember Lloris saying afterwards, there's no one clear direction from the top to the bottom. We're all after different things. And you can sense that, I think. You can sense that even within the squad there seems to be. But at the top, obviously, they just want top 4. That's enough for them to, for Levy to go to Joe Lewis and go, look what I did. We got the money again. We're okay. We did it. We got over the line. And then I assume Craig's cheering his horse has done all right in the Grand National there.
Yeah, my son's horse has just won the national, so yeah, we got.
There you go. Something to be positive about. There we go. Even this podcast not in one clear direction.
Can I just say as well that a number of people are stating, why am I not mentioning the leave it out chance? There were a number of leave it out chants today, yet again. I think that the fans are making it, very well known that they want board members gone. They're making it very well known that they want Pochettino back as well. So we always mention all, of what goes on this channel. Sorry, Jake, to interrupt.
Yeah, no. On that, I will say this. I don't know how you all feel. I think with Pochettino coming back, I think Levy, who I don't like and I do want out, I hope that helps in the comments. But I think 2 reasons why he is maybe reluctant or doesn't feel he can bring Pochettino back. Probably 3 reasons. One of them, I think, is Paratici with the director of football and Pochettino working together wouldn't work. The other one is if Levy, one to us, if he brings Pochettino back, he's going, we made a mistake years ago. We shouldn't have done that. And we took you all on this chaotic ride and that was our fault. But mainly to his boss, to Joe Lewis, he has to go back to him and go, I know that we spent millions on Mourinho. I know we spent millions on Conte. I know we also had to pay off Pochettino. And I know we spent millions on players. Turns out we made a bad mistake and we could have saved ourselves millions and millions. We could have saved you millions. So I think that's why he can't just... Maybe it's his ego. Maybe he wants to be the one that creates this new narrative and this new hero for us all rather than going backwards. But I just think that's the thing. It's such a mess. I can't even... Usually with Tottenham, you think there's a hard reset. There's something we need to do and we can move on. And maybe it was Nagelsmann, maybe put everyone together for a bit. But it doesn't seem like there's one clear... Nobody even knows. It'd be interesting to see what us 4 all think. What we all... If we could hit a reset button, what that reset would be. Does that make sense? I'd love to know what everyone thinks is the solution.
Well, for me, Jake, personally, I think that we need to bring in a manager that's going to be backed. I think that the club needs to do things certainly a lot differently to what we've done in recent years. I know a lot of people are going to think that I'm going to go on the Pochettino bandwagon here, but if you can imagine Pochettino being backed, of course, we spent that time away at Wembley. We didn't spend a penny in 518 days. You imagine giving the money that we have given to Jose Mourinho, Antonio Conte, etc., to someone like Pochettino. Who knows what if? But I think that we need a project manager in next, and I think we need to do things differently to how we have done in recent years, because I feel like a lot of fans have had enough. Ricky, let's come to you. Give me your thoughts on today's game.
Bro, for me, like Jake was saying there, Bournemouth started well. First 5 minutes, they started well, but I felt that we allowed them to start well. As soon as we started to get into our rhythm, I thought that we actually started, we actually was going for it. We was actually playing some attacking football. I felt that it could have been 2-3, 4-0 up at the end of the first half. Kane had 2 great shots. A header went wide. Sonny had that shot that was saved by Neto, and he had another chance as well. There was opportunities. Kulu had an opportunity, could have gone into the top corner, one of his trademark curler shots. There was opportunities left, right, and centre, and I thought there was only going to be one winner at the end of the half. And then, obviously, I thought that Longley was playing some good balls into the box. I thought that he was finding people. I thought that we was getting it. Skippy was energetic. He was all about the park. He was putting in little slide tackles here and there and little niggly tackles that was breaking up their play. But still, we are our worst own enemy. We can't play a back three when we've only got one defender in a back three. And then when Longley's come off, and then, you know, I couldn't believe Davinson Sanchez came onto the field at that point. And then they chucked him on the right because we know Sanchez can't play on the left. He can't play on the right. He can't play in the centre. You know, we all know that. We've seen it now. And you know, he comes on and people would say, all right, cool. Porro had a mixed bag of a game. But people will blame Porro for the first goal. To me, it was Sanchez. It was Sanchez that gave him a poor pass where he was surrounded by 3 other Bournemouth players under pressure, which then put us on the back foot. Also, Sanchez, before he played the pass to Porro, he done one of those ghost touches where he goes to touch the ball but misses the ball. It fumbles under his second foot and then bounces somewhere else, and then he's panicked already. Then he passed the ball, and then obviously those couple of seconds allowed Bournemouth to surround Porro with 3 players, and then they've nicked it off him. And then where was Sanchez? And then Sanchez in the second half, I don't know what he was doing. I don't know where he was, but again, he's fought again all over. And there is a positive with Sanchez. There is a positive because I do believe that has to be his last game in a Tottenham shirt. It has to be his last game in a Tottenham shirt. He's come off. He's devoid of confidence. He can't play for us at all in whatever formation or capacity now, in whatever position within that back three or in a back two. He can't play for us no more. His confidence is shot anyway. And then he's come on, he's been brought on as a sub, and then he's been brought on 5-10 minutes afterwards in the second half, shaking his head. He's listened to the crowd boo him as well. We all know he was the one at fault at those points. You know, even though the Bournemouth had some chance when he wasn't on the field and Longley was still playing, we were still solid enough to be working it out. We still had our best defender in the best position, which was Romero on the right-hand side. In the second half, they started switching around. I saw Dyer go to left centre-back. Romero comes centre-back. And we left Sanchez on the right centre-back. And it was still all over the place. So as soon as they took him off, what I did like is that we went to a back 4. And then we started to push that ball forward. We started to go as attacking as we did with Dan Juma on. I thought it was a bit silly to take off Skippy. Even though Richarlison came on, I would have taken off Kulusevski at that point to bring on Richarlison. But okay, cool. We're going all for it. We're going all out attacking. You know, we're 2-1 down at that time, and I'm seething. I'm swearing at the TV, left, right, and centre. And then we get 2-2 into it. We get back in the game, and for me, there was only one winner at that point. From when we went to a back 4, there was only one winner. We was pushing, we was hustling, but again, all over the place. We allowed the gaps in there, and I don't know why Porro was on the left, like more on the left side than he was on the right side. I don't know where our centre backs were at the time that the third goal went in. Really, really, really frustrating. But for the first time in a while, it looked like we went out there to actually go and try and score a goal, or to actually go and try and win a game. It's a kick in the teeth, that third goal. Really, it's a punch in the stomach. But again, we do it to ourselves. We play this tiki-taka football around our own box, and with Lloris, who ain't that type of keeper. We've known that for years, not just this season, not just last season, but we've known it for years not to play this tiki-taka football and get Lloris involved and play it around our own box, inviting pressure onto us, left, right, and centre. But we continue to do it. So we kicked ourselves in our own foot, my friend. We kicked ourselves again in the stomach or in the backside again and again and again. And it was harsh. It was harsh. I felt that it was tough for Richarlison, who scored that goal, and then there was an offside somewhere. Mate, but this is a reflection of our season again. It's been like this the whole season, up, down, left, right, and centre. And like Jake said, we've been all over the place. So this is again reflection of keeping the same coaching system intact, keeping the same systems intact, keeping the same repetitions intact, and we don't get nothing new. I did see a bit of vim, I did see a bit of vigor, I did see a bit of fight from them, but at the end of the day, it was a bit too late. You know, it was a bit too late, and we allowed them those 2 goals out of nothing, where they shouldn't have really got those 2 goals to put them when they went 2-1 up. So I am frustrated, bro, but I'm trying to look at the positives that were on the field. The fact that the subs were made early, the fact that you've brought on Sanchez, realised that you've made a mistake and then you took him off. That's positive for me, because normally we'd just keep him on. Normally we'd just wait until the 80th minute to make that substitution. Normally we'd bring on Dan Juma with 5 minutes to go, and he comes on and scores a cracker of a goal. So for me, he has to have a start next game. But this is what it is. I think top 4 is over. You know, if you can't do that, I mean, look, Newcastle, you know, they've dropped 3 points today. I say dropped 3 points. Well, they lost today, so we had a great opportunity to go into that top, or to go on the same points and to push them. We've still got to play Liverpool. We've still got to play Man United. So there is opportunities. It's not all over until the fat lady sings. But at the same time, it feels like it's over and done with. If you can't beat Bournemouth, if you can't beat Leicester, if you can't beat Southampton, if you can't beat these sides that are hovering around that side and kind of put your game onto them, then top 4 ain't a thing. But bro, it's like there's so many things that have got to change, that the right decisions have to be made right now. The right decisions have to be made. You've got to get the right manager in that ticks every single box. And there's only one man for me that does that. There's only one man for me that does that, and that's Mauricio Pochettino. And that's not a bandwagon. I know people's argument with Pochettino is that he never won anything. But again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Nobody's calling for one day Ramos to come back, and nobody's asking for George Graham to come back. Nobody's asking for that. And both of those managers were the last managers to win something for Tottenham. The thing is with Pochettino is that not only did he take us to the heights that he took us to, not only was the football fantastic, not only were we competing in every game, and we was brave in every game, and we was fearless in every game, but he worked with the squad that he was given. Even when he's got 500 days without a transfer, he's worked with what he's got, and he improved us, and he took us levels above where we should have been anyway. So that's what needs to happen ASAP. And the fact that they're waiting this long is almost disrespectful. The fact that they're waiting to see who else is around is almost disrespectful. The fact that they're looking at Nagelsmann is my second choice. And for reasons that I'll go into a bit later, because this rant has already gone on 10 minutes. But this side ain't terrible. It ain't. There are certain positions that are terrible, but there's a lot of talent in this side. And with a manager that is forward thinking and on the front foot, we could be a different side. And there's plenty of sides and plenty of managers that have shown that. Look at Aston Villa right now. I watched the Aston Villa Newcastle game, and I was like, "This is Aston Villa. We're not talking about Man City. This is Aston Villa right now." And look at the football that they were playing. And the reason that they won is because they went out there and they fought and they kept pressing and they attacked and they gave Newcastle so many things to worry about. And this is what I keep saying about Tottenham. And this is what our problem's been, is that we've always worried about the opposition. Where I say, don't worry about the opposition, let the opposition worry about you. And we've forgotten that. It was nice to see a glimpse of it today, but it didn't work out. But to me, that's been... today's performance was a better performance than the last two, you know, even though we won the last two. So, you know, let's see what happens next. But this side is I don't, you know, this club, it's diabolical, mate. It's diabolical, and that's why my mother-in-law made me a G&T for this pod today, and I'm enjoying it. So let's keep it moving.
Craig, let's come to you. Let's get your thoughts on today's game. And very nice, my friend Paul has just bought me a pint.
Hey!
You must know I'm pretty miserable. Yeah, Craig, let's get your thoughts.
God, where do you start? I mean, let's get it right. You're playing Bournemouth. With the greatest respect to Bournemouth, you should be looking to beat them 2-3-0, right? I mean, they're down the bottom of the league. Yes, they're fighting to stay in the league, but it's Bournemouth. Last week, we were incredibly lucky to beat Brighton. You could argue that we didn't deserve to beat Brighton. I'll personally say that, but I'll take the win. This week, you hope that we would have pushed on. And, you know, with Newcastle losing, I mean, what else motivation can you have than to actually be in the top four? You know, and we ballsed it up again. And it's just, it seems like we're jumping from one disaster to the next, this club. It's like, how many times do we have the opportunity to go somewhere, get in that top four, go up the table, put pressure on the people around us, and we don't do it? And if you can't do it against Bournemouth, what chance have we got doing it going to Anfield or St James's Park? Because you can bet your life Newcastle are going to bounce back from that, and they're going to be strong at home against us. We got United. I mean, I think Rick's right. Top four is gone now. I was a bit more confident after seeing Newcastle today. I thought, you know what, we get a win today, and you're up there. You got the points on the board, and blah blah blah. I'm just disgusted with it. I'm sick to the back teeth of this club. Honestly, it's one of the things we all look forward to in life, and seeing this club do well, and to go through the emotions we've had this season. I tell you, it's incredible. And like you, Chris, you go home and away. I don't know what it must be doing to your mental health, honestly, because it's draining just watching it on the telly. It is so frustrating. Frustration is the right word, and I'm frustrated. I think personally, it's a lot of things that is wrong with this club. I've said before, it's the players, it's the manager, it's Levy, it's the board, everything. I think everyone's to blame, certainly to some degree. But what I would say is, and I totally agree with what Ricky said, if he'd got in Pochettino now, can you imagine the lift that stadium would have had today? I'm convinced we would have won that game today. I cannot see the logic in giving it to Stellini. I never could. I mean, that was a scenario that I don't think I heard anybody anywhere on Twitter, on the internet, on podcasts, anything say, oh, I think they're going to give the job to Stellini. I never saw that coming, and I don't get the logic behind it, and I still won't, because we're going to be like this till the end of the season. The players just going through the motions. I think the players are trying. Don't get me wrong. I think they're trying.
Yeah.
And I thought we did look a bit better as a small positive with a back four, but it was just incredibly frustrating. And for Christ's sake, if anybody's listening to this, listen to the fans. Go and get Pochettino back. I know not all of you want him out there. I personally do. I'd have him back in a heartbeat. But I'm at a point, that's my opinion. If I was in charge, I wouldn't have even waited. Get him in now. Get rid of Stellini. Get him to come in, unless there's some reason that he doesn't want to come in now. But, you know, for reasons you can't control. But for Christ's sake, do the right thing. You must sit there and watch the games and hear the fans. I heard it today, the fans singing his name. And just coming on to Davinson Sanchez, and I would speak about him a bit later, he was dreadful today. He was awful. But I would say, personally, this is my opinion, I don't agree with booing your own players, because that is not helping during the game. And when he came off, he was in tears on the bench. Now, whether that was, I personally think it was part of being took off, because that's embarrassing for a player, but also to hear your own fans booing you. Now, I get the frustration. You should not, I don't care what anybody says, you should not be booing one of your own players. That is not helping the situation. We know he's having a stinker. How in what world is that helping the team? Hearing your own fans booing your player. That is not right, in my opinion. But he was dreadful. Let me just caveat that. He was dreadful, and players come off. But I don't agree with the booing. But that's my opinion.
Let's go through the stats today. Tottenham Hotspur had 57% possession to Bournemouth 43. We had 24 shots to Bournemouth 9. We had 8 shots on target to Bournemouth 6. We had 8 corners to Bournemouth 1, and fouls, Spurs 8, Bournemouth 9. Tottenham Hotspur, as I mentioned, are still 5th in the Premier League. We have now played 31 games. We have 53 points. We are 3 points away from the top 4. Manchester United have 2 games in hand. Newcastle have a game in hand over us also. And Aston Villa, after their superb win against Newcastle, beating them 3-0 at Villa Park earlier, are now only 3 points away from Spurs in 6th place. So currently we are in a Europa League spot. Jake, when you look at that table, how are you feeling about Tottenham's chances of Champions League football? Surely it's gone now.
Oh, gone. Yeah, completely gone. I think it's been gone for a while. Personally, I just always felt like we were just always holding on. I feel like not even now. I don't even know if we'll finish that high. To be honest, it seems to be that how we've been performing and how we've looked on the pitch and what's been going on at the club compared to where we've been in the league hasn't sort of quite leveled up. It's been quite shocking that we've been as in it as we have been, to the point where we could have really been fighting today if we'd won, especially with people losing around us. But I think it's gone, and maybe in the bigger picture it's a good thing, because they have to really, if the way that they are working is that they just want top 4 each time and they fail this time with getting it, then they can't get away with it again. They feel like they're just getting away with it and they can just keep just doing the minimum. It feels like there's been talk today about Eric Dyer having another contract. There's been talk about them signing Longley for 14 million. And it feels like every time they just go, if we could just, Longley's now got Premier League experience. So for 14 million, that's good enough for us now. Eric Dyer, he knows the club. He's played with Romero. That's good enough. It feels like they're just doing, it's like Moneyball, but not successful. They're just doing the bare minimum to see how they keep everything afloat and just spend enough just to get that top 4. But if they fail, they have to just go bigger and they have to do more. So in the bigger picture, it's horrible for this season. It means no Champions League next season. But I think in the bigger picture, it's not a bad thing personally. I know people will probably really disagree with that because it's Champions League, but I just go, what's the point? We saw what we were like in the Champions League this season. It was pointless us being there. It just felt like we were there to make up the numbers. We didn't. What are we going to do next season? That we didn't do this season. It just feels like it's just a waste of time, to be honest. And I know it's amazing when you're there. It's amazing to be at the stadium. It's amazing, all in white. It's amazing. The Champions League, the music is brilliant. But I mean, it's just embarrassing watching us in it anyway. And even the winnable games, we just didn't turn up in. So we don't deserve to be the Champions League, and that's the truth. So why do we want to be there? Like, if we're thinking about a trophy, we've got more chance of winning one of the others. So why don't we just focus on that?
It was also embarrassing losing 1-0 at Pacos de Ferreira in the Europa Conference League. That was embarrassing. Jake, can I get your opinion on Christian Stellini staying at Spurs? What did you make of that decision?
I mean, as Craig was saying before, I don't think any of us predicted it. None of us wanted it. I can only assume that... I assume they would have been paying Stellini and the coaching staff anyway if they'd got rid of them. So they've thought, if we keep them and we carry on paying them, we just save ourselves some money until we decide what we're going to do for this new project. They clearly are being careful this time with what they do and who they bring in. But obviously last time they were careful with it, we ended up with Nuno. So that's not a good thing. But I don't know. Is that what it could be, that they were going to pay Stellini anyway? They'd have to pay them all off. They might as well just pay them and keep them there.
Well, they might as well have kept Conte then. What was the point in getting rid of him? It's only because the board got, they got their faces slapped in the press and in front of everybody that he's been sacked. It's got nothing to do with the performance.
I think that's why.
Nothing. Yeah. So, but then discipline him and then keep Conte until the end of the season. If we're going to play the same old way, if nothing's going to change, then what's the point? If you're going to sack Conte, then you've got to go for another manager, or you've got to have somebody in mind and kind of go, all right, and cool, let's make this happen. Let's make the change now. But it's only because the board's egos were slapped, and they got called out in front of everybody, and that press conference went around the world and was viral in the footballing world, that they were like, oh, we can't have that, and that's why he got sacked. Otherwise, they could have just disciplined him and gone, you know what, we're going to handle this situation at the end of the season because there's 10 games left. If you're going to keep Stellini, you should have just kept Conte then. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
but one thing we can't expect this board to do is make a sensible and practical decision. So, yeah, completely agree.
What would be the best decision for you, Jake, personally? What would be the best decision that the board can make now?
I think, personally for me, it would be Pochettino back. I think, considering what he achieved, and people say, obviously, we all know he didn't win the trophy, but the amount that he put up with while he was there. I mean, the fact that he got to the Champions League final, I don't see any other manager during that time have been able to do that at all. The fact that he steered us away from White Hart Lane to Wembley without any signings, steered us back to the stadium, doing this throughout a season without signings, getting the best out of players. And then as soon as he hit a stumbling block, as soon as we got the hangover from not winning the final, which everybody suffered, you know, they're all in it together. And instead of just sticking with him and getting through it together and sailing through the storm, they just got rid of him because they liked the shiny idea of Mourinho and because he was there. And I don't know if Levy was trying to sort of, I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know if he just thought that Tottenham could just be a win quick team that could get a manager like that and come and get results. And Pochettino has been proven now by Mourinho and Conte that we can't do that. People talk about how Pochettino would be at training in the morning. He'd go and see the younger players, go and watch the younger teams, make sure the philosophy was there throughout the club, make sure everybody was in one clear direction. Now, you could name 10 directions. You can name what it seems to be. Even within the squad, it looks like they're playing two different formations and two different sort of tactical sort of aims. It doesn't seem like, seems like some of them are trying to break forward, but then the other 9 are saying, no, we're not allowed to do that. We've got to stay back. It's a complete mess. Pochettino had us playing the way we wanted to play. He had a philosophy, and he got us second, third, fourth. He got us Champions League final. It has to be Pochettino. He wants to come back. He said he'd come back. They should be doing anything to get him back, and they should have done it as soon as Conte went.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm on the fence.
Ricky, let's come to you. And I should have said actually that I bumped into Neil Ruddock, former Spurs defender, of course, before the game, and I said, "What do you think the score will be today? What do you think?" And he said 3-1, and then paused and said either way. So this is the thing.
Right.
A lot of people can't even predict the score at the moment. With Tottenham playing the way that we are. But Rick, let's come to you. Starting 11, of course, came out an hour before kickoff. It was exactly the same team that drew 1-1 against Everton and, of course, beat Brighton last week at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Lloris in goal, Romero, Dyer and Langley, the wing-backs of Perisic and Porro, in midfield, Skip and Højbjerg, and then the front three of Kulusevski, Son and Kane. Subs today, Forster, Austin, Sanchez, Tanganga, Abbott, Sarr, Devine, Danjuma and Richarlison. Were you surprised, or were you hoping that Stellini was going to change a few things up?
I wasn't surprised, but I was hoping that Stellini was going to drop Kulusevski. And I know Kulusevski's been dynamite for us last season, but he's been out of form this season. Do you know what I mean? Especially after the 2 injuries that he had January. So before the World Cup, he had an injury, and then he came back in that little mini winter pre-season. He was on fire. He was everywhere. He was playing in the number 10 position, but he was on fire. And he came back, played that first game, and I thought, oh, he's ready to go again. Then he had another little niggle, which put him out for another month. And ever since he's come back from that, he's been trying to get back to top gear, but it has not got there. So what I would have done, or what I was hoping, was that Danjuma would have started this game. I thought that you could put Son on the right and put Danjuma on the left, and just having Son on the right-hand side would have just created a bit of confusion for Bournemouth. And against Bournemouth, it would have been a good team to kind of try that experiment and just to change it up. Because when you watch Tottenham, when you're studying Tottenham as the opposition, I assume it's very easy to read. It's very easy to put a game plan together to play against us. We know, all of us know what we're going to do. We all know we're going to look for the overlap from the wing back. We're going to look for more crosses, then passes through the middle. We all know what we're looking for. Do you know what I mean? And we all know who to defend and what players to defend in what scenario. So that's what I was hoping. The fact that he started Cowlin, I'm not going to be like angry at him, because obviously we're hoping and waiting for Cowlin to kind of click back into gear. But that's been what we've been hoping and waiting for the whole season. We've been waiting for Tottenham to click into gear. We've had a couple of games where we've been, where we've played well and we've got the result. Yes, we have. But we've not clicked into gear the whole season. We've been waiting. We've been chugging along. We'll kind of go 4 steps forward and then we've got to go 6 steps back. So, yeah, I was hoping that he was going to change it up just to give us a bit of freshness. But on the lineup, look, that's why I wasn't surprised when he put out the same lineup. I was like, well, okay, it's Conte's number 2, isn't it? He's going to do what Conte would do, and this is exactly what Conte would do. Would play the same 11. But I've got to tell you, before you get escorted off from security, Chris, and to the listeners and to the guys on the pod today, I listened to 2 podcasts while I was in the gym this week. It was both on the High Performance podcast by Jake Humphries, and I know I'm promoting another podcast, Chris, so forgive me, all right, but it was Tottenham related. And the first one I listened to was Ryan Mason's. Now, to hear Ryan Mason's journey and to hear his struggles and to hear how he had to kind of come to the realization that he had to give up playing with the skull injury and, almost dying and stuff like that. And then to go back into coaching and the way that he picks back up. It really did give me a lot of good energy to know that we do actually have somebody who is embedded in the Tottenham way, right? When he took over from Mourinho for those couple of games, very young, very raw, but he was ready. He said he was ready to go. And if we look at those performances, some of them, they were all right. They were not too bad. Yes, we lost the final, but that was like his second game, as manager. And he actually says on the podcast, and I urge everybody to give it a listen, he actually said on the podcast, he wished that final was a little bit later because he was just kind of getting them to tick over. And there's certain things that he's taken from every manager that he's worked with, and that they were just starting to click. He couldn't do much in the 4 days before the cup final, but they were just starting to click and they were just starting to turn over. And for me, that gave me a lot of hope for Ryan Mason in the future, and for him as a coach being at Spurs. Straight after that podcast, I went and listened to the same podcast, High Performance podcast, but it was for Pochettino. And I didn't listen to it when it first came out. The boys, Jake Humphries and the boys, they put a couple of clips out on YouTube. And I remember I couldn't watch it because I was still heartbroken about Pochettino. But I listened to this podcast and I was just like, this guy is so classy. He is so well known. He's so kind of intuitive. He's all about the energy. He gave us class, he wasn't just a manager, but he gave us some class and some dignity about how to go about certain things. And when he speaks about energy, like, he would shake every player's hand in the morning. And if you kind of like shook his hand a bit limply or like a bit kind of like off, he would know that you was off. And then he would try and kind of work with that player and see him in training and figure it out. And it was all about a kind of family unit. And if we go back to that time when Poch was in charge, we were like Spartans. We was all brothers in arms. We was all family. We was all fighting for everyone that was to the left and to the right. It wasn't just an individual performance. It wasn't just all on Harry's shoulders or all on Dembele's shoulders or all on whoever's shoulders. It was a team unit. It started from the back. Lloris, Jan Vertonghen, Toby, to Dembele in midfield, to Sonny and Kane up front and stuff like that. And this is why it kind of, for me, this is why he is the man that is needed at Tottenham right now. One, he doesn't need convincing. Every other manager that we're going to go and speak to are going to need convincing. If we go to Nagelsmann, he's the wonder kid, right? And you're going to have to convince him. Listen, Nagelsmann, we're going to give you this much a year, and you're going to get this much in the transfer. And trust me, if and we're going to have to convince him to get there. And then when he walks in, how's he going to walk in? Right, and yes, he's dynamite right now, and he plays really good football. But how's he going to affect? I don't know what kind of bravado or arrogance or kind of confidence he's going to walk in with. Right, anybody else that's on the list, I don't really believe in. The only one that wants the job, that wants to come back, that wants to fix the problems is Pochettino. And also, when we look at the signings, I know I'm going off on one, Chris, but trust me, I've had a lot of thoughts after I've had a week off. With all of these signings, they talk about club signings. Let me tell you, everybody on this podcast right now, everybody listening to this and everybody watching this, that every single signing we get from this point onwards, from when Paratici is turned up, they're all going to be club signings. Because if you look at the links right now, we're still going after players. All right, we're still linked with Madison. There was talked about Ansu Fati from Barcelona the other day. They're all going to be club signings, and Pochettino is the only one that will accept that. Of course, he would have an opinion, but he's the only one that would accept that and kind of go, okay, cool. This is what I've got to work with. Let me go to work. Not like Conte, which sees a club signing like Spence or Danjuma or all the rest of them, all of them. Apart from Perisic, all of them, and kind of go, no, I'm not working with that. No, I don't like that. No, I didn't really want him. I didn't really want that player there. I didn't really want. Poch picked it up and he knew. I remember that interview where he goes, I'll ask for a washing machine, but I'll get a dryer, and then I'll have to work out how to work with a dryer. Do you know what I mean? So he's one that will adapt. He will change. He's not rigid in his philosophy or in his system. He did have a plan A and a plan B and a plan C. So he's the only one for me that can come in and heal all the wounds, scrap what's going on right now, and invigorate and encourage and kind of give the boys that fire to go on and to go and achieve something right here and right now. Poch is the only man to do it. So everyone that sang his name today, continue to sing his name, get it louder, and stop doubting this thing about he didn't win nothing. He done more for us than win a trophy. And I know that sounds bloody well crazy, but he done more for us. He got rid of every single hoodoo that we had against Chelsea, against the Gooners, against Man United. The only one we didn't cross the line with was the finals. All right. So if he had the backing that, like you said, Chris, Mourinho and Conte's had, where would we be right now? Where would we be? And when we talk about backing a manager, you've got to back a manager through a bad time as well. If Liverpool sacked Klopp right now, people would be going mad, going, how could you sack Klopp? How could you sack Klopp? They're only having a bad season. Look how much he's done for us. Look where we was, look how we were playing, and look where we were going under Pochettino. So you could have given him, let him have his credit in the bank and kind of go, all right, and Poch, what do we need to do next? I trust you because of what you've done in the past. So now they need to go with humble pie to Pochettino's door, knock on it and go, please, Poch, I'm sorry. I promise we'll give you what you need and come back and make it all better. That's what needs to happen right here, right now. I didn't see none of the comments. I saw my name. I didn't see none of them, but I know somebody was chatting about Watford. So let's crack on.
Well, someone said they'd gone out, cut the grass and come back and you were still talking.
They know me, man. Come on. They know me.
That's why we love you on this channel, Rick. Craig, let's come to you. On the same subject of the starting 11, do you think Stellini should have made changes today, bearing in mind that the performance last week, although we won against Brighton, wasn't great?
Yeah, I was just more concerned. I was clean shaven when I come on this podcast, and I need a shave now after that. I love you, Rick. I wasn't again. Look, I wasn't surprised that we picked the same 11 because I wouldn't say we're down to the bare bones, but you know, he did have other options. I'm not surprised to see the same 11. I personally would have liked to see Dan Juma get a start over Kulusevski because he hasn't really been on his game. But he did. That just seems a bit rigid to me. Unwilling to bend. What I did like about Mourinho, I've said on here before, is when things weren't going quite right, he would make earlier changes. He would make changes at half time. I don't think I ever saw, unless it was injury enforced, Conte or Stellini for that matter, make changes at half time. I think we needed something today. We were on top and good in parts of the first half. Obviously, the second half, Richarlison missed that header right at the end, which I know will come on to. You know, Kane had a couple of headers that went wide and over, but I wasn't surprised to see the same lineup, Chris. No, because I just think we're too like we said, too predictable. You know, if you're an opposition manager, I don't think you have to do that much research about Tottenham. You know, Kulusevski's going to cut back on his left foot. You know what you're going to get when you play Tottenham. I just think we're too predictable. And just totally echoing what Ricky said. If you were in that stadium today and you were singing Poch's name and you want Poch back, keep singing it. Sing it as loud as you possibly can. Get that whole stadium singing it because they're going to have to listen. They're going to have to listen. I say that. How many times do they listen? But it's just frustrating as hell because I would say a majority of the fan base that I've seen on Twitter, not everyone, by far from it, but you're not going to please everyone. Out of all the candidates, it's got to be Poch. And I'm sorry to keep going banging on about it. I totally agree with what Rick said. When he took over that team, we were crap when he took over. He got rid of all the deadwood. He actually coached the players to be better players, and he created a team. He created a family. And yeah, we didn't get over the line. But isn't that the best times you've had as a Tottenham fan over the last 10 years? Honestly, you can have that back if they trust in him and back him. And you don't even, that's the beauty of Pochettino. You don't even need to back him that much. Just back the guy and get him some decent players in. You haven't got to have world stars. What's he said? Easy go. I might need to. I'm keeping an eye on the time. I'm not talking that long. It's just that, no, but you know what I mean? It's so easy to get carried away because there's so much to say, because there's so much frustration coming out. And like Josh says there, I've never felt so disconnected. However, I've never felt as connected as when Poch was in charge. He's out there. Go and get the guy back. Give him what he bloody wants. Just, you're going to wring somebody's fucking neck. Honestly, he does my head in this club. Honestly. Anyway, I'll let somebody else have a say because I'm turning into Rick.
Jake, the comment on screen now from Josh. Josh is a channel regular. I've never felt so disconnected from the club when he changed now. Do you feel like that? Because at the moment, I know so many Spurs fans saying exactly the same thing.
Yeah. I will say this. I watched the game earlier. I found a stream. I don't have a Fire Stick yet. I'm not sure if we're legally allowed to say that, whatever. But I found a stream anyway. There's no way I would have done that if I wasn't coming on this podcast. I watched it so I could come on and talk about it, so I'd at least seen the game, even though I could have probably predicted what would have happened anyway. But I've otherwise I wouldn't have watched it. I wouldn't have and I found myself just less and less. Whenever the lineup comes out, I texted my dad the lineup. We have a little chat about it. And usually that would be an ongoing conversation we'd have, and that would lead throughout the game. But now I just sort of text him the lineup, and I go, same old, and we go, yeah, good luck, see you on the other side. We don't even bother throughout the game now. We just go, it's just too up and down. We just can't be bothered. I've never felt less connected. The only good thing is I've never seen the fans sort of come together so much because we all need something. This is bringing the fans together strongly, but as a club, the disconnect is off the charts. I would have no interest in going to a game at the minute. It's amazing what you do, Chris, because honestly, it's incredible that you stick with them no matter what. Because sometimes I can't. Sometimes I just have to mute all the accounts, and I just go, I can't have this. And like Craig was saying earlier about like mental health and stuff, I was like, I don't know how you can put up with this, and I don't know like how we're all doing it, but it's probably why we're all looking back at the Poch time so much, being like, do you remember when we were happy? Do you remember when it was like exciting on match days, when you would see what the lineup was going to be, you'd know we were going to play, you knew we'd go at them, whatever it was going to be. And now it's just, oh God, what's it going to be this time? Whether it's we're 3-1 up and we draw 3, or we're 1-0 up, we draw 1-0, we lose, it's whatever today was. What was it? 3-2. I thought we'd lost 2-1. I completely forgot about all that last 10 minutes anyway. But it's just, I've never felt so disconnected, and I feel like, I know obviously there's a lot of fans who wouldn't want Poch back, but I just feel like whether it is Poch, and if we get Poch back, we all want Poch back, a lot of us want Poch back, there's talk of Vincent Kompany, whatever, it's just a manager that makes us proud and excited of the team.
I was about to swear then, Craig, and I don't normally swear on these podcasts. I was about to swear, bruv.
He said the proud word. Sorry.
Do you know?
Between the lines.
All joking aside, when I watched Cowlin's press conference yesterday, he just reminds me of like a cross between Nuno Espirito Santo and Christian Gross. I'm not.
Yeah.
I just don't feel, and it really pains me to say that, because I've supported every single Spurs manager that we've ever appointed, and Stellini being in charge right now, I don't know. I just can't seem to get behind the guy. I'm not feeling.
I don't even watch the press conferences anymore.
Sorry, what was that, Jake?
Sorry, I was saying it feels like, I'm the same. I don't watch the press conferences. I see the snippets that come through, and I watch a bit of a bit. It seems like to me he's sort of talking in sound bites. He's maybe saying what he thinks we want to hear.
Yeah.
But I don't think he believes it. He knows he's gone. He knows he's not going to stay. He's not like he's even trying to prove himself to get the job. And it's worse. It's why I think if they had just brought someone in, hopefully Pochettino, if they brought them in, imagine if he comes in, not only does it give us a big reset and reignite the players, it also gives him 10 games to go, who do I want to keep and who can go? It could have had some time, and there's low pressure on the start of the season. It was so set up perfectly for someone to come in, have some time with his squad, see what they need and what they don't, and what they want, who they want to go, who they want to bring in. It would have been perfect. It's somehow, no matter how low this club gets, they find a way for it to get even lower. It's unbelievable.
I totally agree, Jay. And what you say about if rumours are true that I did read, it was only one account, but somebody said Potts might not want to come back because it might taint what he can do. You'd rather start afresh in the summer. Well, get Harry Redknapp. He wants a job. Well, we'll go and get him. But if that was the case, just go and get Harry Redknapp for the last 10 games. You know, a fan's favourite. You know what football you're going to get. Harry would get us playing. You know, I know he never won us anything, but Christ, who did? Who has? You know, just you need, if you're any business, you want your staff to be happy, and we're kind of the staff, because aren't we? Really, the supporters as well. But we pay the bloody wages of these people. We pay Daniel Levy's wages, so the fans should have a say in this. You know, he said many times we're only the custodians of this club. Well, listen to the people that are in the stadium. Then listen to the fans, what they want. The majority of the fans, just go and do it. Don't think you know best all the time, because you clearly don't. You clearly don't.
Craig,
sorry, Chris, but
do you think they will listen to the fans? Because this is now 2 home games on the trot. Of course, I've gone to many away games as well, where a handful of fans have sung Pochettino's name. But the last couple of weeks, it was loud.
Yeah, it was. It was loud today. I didn't hear it. I only heard it once today, but I'm sure there was more times. But you know, I wasn't really listening to the audio because, like Jake, I was having to watch it on a dodgy stream through my neighbour's window because I wouldn't do it. You know, but it's frustrating if they don't. That's all I'm going to say. But I don't expect them to. No, because they haven't for 20 odd years. I don't think once they've listened to the fans. And the only times they have, when, you know, like the Super League, for example, we was going to be in that. If the fans hadn't, if there wasn't that massive backlash, and I still think that was something to do with Mourinho going, you know, I'm sure he kicked off about that and they had a ruck about that. If the fan, that was a empty, you know, apology. When you go back and read that, all they were thinking about was money. That's all they were thinking about. But they do need to listen. And this is not just Tottenham. You get this from a lot of owners of clubs. When you look around the Premier League, you know, you'd get it a lot. Look how many years Newcastle fans suffered with Mike Ashley, thinking he knew best. It happens everywhere. It's not just us. But please, Tottenham, just for once, change. You've got to change, because we are on a slippery slope.
Craig, you know what? I think we would have seen an upturn in results and performances if it was Ryan Mason in charge with a Harry beside him, or with a Glenn Hoddle beside him, or something like that. This is what I'm saying. Yeah. This is why I say to the fans and everybody to go listen to that podcast, because I know a lot of I remember when Mason took over, there was a lot of like, oh, it's Ryan mates on and all of that. And I remember saying at the time, sometimes you do need your mates on who you can trust to go out there and do a job sometimes. Do you know what I mean? The same way that I said about Conte needed Perisic as a soldier to go out there and kind of go and perform, but show everybody else that, trust me, Conte knows what he's talking about. You always need a couple of soldiers that believe in you and you believe in them. So I think he got unnecessary stick when he did take over with the whole mates on palaver, but he is embedded in Tottenham. Listen, do you know what he said in the podcast at one point? He said, you know, every single birthday he had, when the birthday cake came out and he blew out those candles, do you know what he wished for? He wished to score at Tottenham and win the game, bro. That was his image in his head. He wanted to score at Tottenham. Even when he was at Hull, he was thinking about coming back to Tottenham. Do you know what I mean? And like, so this guy is entrenched. He loves the club. He knows the ethos. He's in tune with the fans as well as the players. If he was to be the one that would take over and Stellini had gone, I think we would have had an upturn in performances. We would have had a bit of a new manager bounce. But with Stellini and keeping it all the same, it's just been the same. And Chris, I've got to ask you the question, bro. That comment that came up about disconnection. Chris, you go home and away. You go home and away, bro. You've seen this. You've seen the last 4 years' performances. You've seen Nuno. You've seen Mourinho. You've seen Conte. Now you've seen Stellini. Tell me how you feel, bro, because you're there. Not only do you sit there and watch the bloody well game, but you travel up and you travel back, bro. And I remember the last game that we was on, you got back at 5 in the damn morning. Do you know what I mean? So, like, I want to know how you feel, bro, as a fan who sits there and sings and hopes and prays in the bloody well stadium, and with this side tattooed on your chest, bro. I know it's not tattooed, but I mean, like, metaphorically, how do you feel?
It is actually tattooed.
Is it? Get in.
Do you know what, Rick? I feel drained. I really do. And I think this is probably one of the only seasons that I've supported Spurs where I've wanted the season to be over. Obviously, we want European football for next year, but this season, I just think has been so difficult. The football has been really poor. The way that we've set up, the players, you know, you've all said it. You've all said it on this podcast so far. The players are to blame. The management, the board. You know, so much needs to change at this club. And if we are going to fall back in love, because I think a lot of fans have fallen out of love with parts, if not the whole club, this season. I think if we're going to get back to falling back in love with it, a lot needs to change in the summer. And as I said to someone earlier, you know, you've got the team not playing that well and not getting the performances and results that we want. You've got all of these loan players coming back in the summer. We're looking for a manager. We've appointed Scott Munn, which seems a good appointment for the football club. But he doesn't start until the 1st of July. So who is in charge of the managerial appointment? The fans are singing for Pochettino back. A number of fans don't want him back. I think the fans are very divided on that. There's so much to sort. There is so much to do at this football club. And I tell you, it's going to be very, very hard trying to sort a lot of it out. But in answer to your question, Rick, I feel drained this season. And the Everton game, I got back gone 5 a.m, went to work that day. You know, a lot of people probably think that I do YouTube full time. I don't. I have a full-time job. I went to work that day. I was absolutely drained for that whole day and that week. But I love my club, I support my club, but at the end of the day, we all have different opinions. Some of us have very different opinions, but we all want the same thing. We all want the club to be successful. We all want the club to move back in the right direction. But I tell you what, if Spurs play Europa Conference League football or no European football at all next season, it will be pretty toxic, I feel. Europa League, I think, is probably our level for next season. But whoever comes in, they have got a huge job. I know many reports in the last couple of days have stated Vincent Kompany, Maurizio Pochettino, you've got Nagelsmann. You know, there are so many names being thrown in the mix at the moment about who will be next Spurs job. But whoever takes over, it is going to be huge. But I think the club just need to get the next decision absolutely right. And I feel like I've said that many times before as well.
Do you think... Go on. Sorry. I just had one follow-up question. Sorry. I know I'm taking over. I apologise. But I've been off for 1 week. I've got a lot to say. Sorry. Chris, do you think that if we don't get Champions League, Kane's off?
Do you know, I said this to Paul, who's a friend of mine who I sat next to today. And I said, like, if you were Harry Kane's dad or his brother or a family member, what would you be saying to Harry Kane? And I think if it was that close, if it was your family member, you would be telling him to leave. I wouldn't blame Harry Kane at all for leaving, because he wants, you know, he's going to go down as the all-time England goal scorer, all-time Tottenham goal scorer. He now wants that Premier League record. He can do that at any other Premier League club. The most likely destinations, if he was to leave, would probably be Manchester United, Liverpool may put an offer in, or Newcastle. I think that I don't see any other clubs coming in for him apart from those three clubs. He wants to win a trophy, surely. You know, you would not want to be ending your career, someone like Harry Kane, who is a world-class striker. You'd want to be winning something. And he'd probably have more of an opportunity of winning a trophy, and it really pains me to say that, than Tottenham. Wouldn't
it be so Tottenham, though, to sell him and then Spurs go and win a cup the next year? It would happen. You know it would happen. But.
Yeah. Craig, let's stay with you. Let's go straight into the game. 14th minute, Lenglet with a great ball forward through to Perisic. Perisic cut back to Heung-min Son, made it 1-0. At that point, we looked like we were cruising, but a very, very well-worked goal.
Yeah, it was. I can't believe we're an hour in and we're only up to the 14th minute. That's how bad it is, really. No, it was. At that point in the game, I thought we looked really good, actually. It was, beautiful ball over the top from Lenglet, Perisic square, Sonny, great left foot finish. He'd hit the post. Did he hit the post slightly before that, or am I thinking of something else? No, he hadn't. I'm thinking about another. Oh, that was Ollie Watkins for Villa, who were brilliant today, by the way. Great finish from Sonny. Should have capitalised though and gone on to score more goals in that first half because we were dominant. But typical Tottenham, we can't do it, can we? Like I say, at that point, it looked like everything was going well and probably to plan. But again, we kind of set back, we moved back 10, 15 yards. And when Bournemouth are coming onto you, that's what worries me. Somebody like Bournemouth, who, you know, they're Bournemouth, with respect. If that had been against somebody like a Liverpool or a City or a Manchester United, we'd have got our asses handed to us again today. And that's why I really fear for us in these games. And just coming back to Ryan Mason, just for 1 minute, I think he did do well those last few games he had us. But what I did think the mistake he made in that final was not start Gareth Bale. But that's just me. So I think he called that one wrong. But he'd only been in the job 5 minutes. I'm not quite sure why he wouldn't play Bale in the final. But there you go. Let's talk about Gareth Bale. But look, it's sour taste today. Just not good enough again overall, Chris. And I know we're going to cover the rest of the game, but you've got to look at the game as a whole. And again, what I would have to say is, have I been entertained for 90 minutes? And the answer is no. And that goes back a couple of years, to be honest.
Jake, what did you make of Heung-min Son's performance today? Because, of course, he got Tottenham's first goal. In the 21st minute, Son had another chance, hit it a goal, Neto saved. But what have you made of him this season in the last couple of weeks?
In the last couple of weeks, you can see he's really trying. We all know he's always trying. And today, great work for the goal. And then I know there was a little bit before when he did have that shot, he could have squared it to Kane. And I know Kane showed a little bit of annoyance, but I think there's such love there that they never properly sort of go at each other. They sort of have probably done it enough times to even out. Then he played a nice ball through to Kane afterwards, and Kane just a bit of a stretch. Otherwise, he could have put it away. And then I felt like towards the end of the game, about 75th minute, I felt like Son seemed to be really trying. He just couldn't quite sync with the others. I don't know what it was. It was just something was not quite right. But he was really trying. I feel like he is probably a bit like you, looking forward to this season being over. He can sort of go again. I just feel like, personally, from watching, it can't be a coincidence that both Son and Kulusevski have both struggled this season. It's clearly something being asked of them, or their positioning. It's just not the same as. And I know Conte, when he came in last season, he couldn't have made too many changes too soon, so he continued to let them play the way they were playing. I just think the fact that the two of them have both struggled the way they have is not a coincidence. And I feel like I'm pretty sure he's going to go anyway. But the Perisic-Son thing today worked, but for the majority of the season, it just hasn't worked at all. And I don't know if it's Perisic being too far up and Son's been asked to come back a little bit more, that they just clash. And I think Kula and Son have both had to come back a lot more than they're used to. And they're just losing that yard. And they've got the pace to do it, but they're just a bit too far back. And I know there was a time even when Danjuma played one of his handful of minutes this season, and he went to make a run, and he stopped and sort of turned to Conte. I think Conte had shouted at him, almost like telling him to not make the run forward, which is obviously his job. And I feel like that's why the two of them will just benefit from when this next manager comes back. I know Kulusevski's been poor as well. No, Son's been poor. I feel like the two of them will both fly with a new manager. And that's the other exciting thing about a new manager coming in. Sorry, just to go back to it. I know it's not what you asked. Look at the squad that we have, these players that we have, even the ones we've now sent out on loan. Sorry, I really mean it.
I'm with you.
Just look at that squad, like the players, exciting players. Brian Hill out there, all these players that could come and play together with an exciting manager. I think it's gonna be good. And I just feel like Son's season, I think it's partially his fault. I know he's struggled. He's always holds his hand up and admit it, but I think it's partly to do with what him and Kulusevski are being told to do.
I think we missed Bentancur a lot as well. I know we were crap before that, but
yeah.
I think Bentancur's a massive miss, and I agree. Take the reins off some of these players, and I think you will see us fly to a degree. I think there's a fair bit of work that still needs to be done, and a few players that need to be replaced. But imagine if Ndombele actually did what we all know he could do. I mean, he could be running that team, but that's for another day.
Ricky, let's come to you. Hugo Lloris made a great save from a shot in the 29th minute, and then 6 minutes later, Davinson Sanchez came on, Lenglet went off, injured, and then 3 minutes later, Bournemouth equalised through Vina. What did you make of that goal, that equaliser to make it 1-1?
Bambi on ice, mate. Bambi on ice was back on the field, and it's unfortunate for Sanchez because, you know, when we first signed him and that first season with him, with Jan and Toby, you know, with the rotation that was going on there, he was dynamite. You know, I remember Pochettino saying again that this defender could be like one of the best in the world in the future, you know, and it's just gone so downhill for him. He keeps doing this ghost touch, and you could find compilations of it, of him going to touch the ball and missing the ball. And we're not talking about a big control. We're not talking about a forceful pass where he's got to control it, you know, and it's a simple passes where he goes to touch the ball, doesn't touch the ball, and it bounces somewhere else, and then suddenly we're in panic. And it happened again, Chris. It happened again, where it came to him, he's come on, they've given him the right centre-back slot. We've taken our best defender out of that slot to accommodate him because we know he's even worse on the left. He's come in, done that, and then passed the ball into Porro, who was surrounded by 3 other players that were ready to close him down in a millisecond. which then put pressure on us, and then they've gone and scored the goal. You know, look, again, like to reiterate what Craig said there, I don't really want any of us to boo our own players. But I think what they done by booing was send a massive message to not only the manager, Stellini, but the board and the club and him, that we've had enough now. Like, we've had enough. We've had enough of Davinson Sanchez. And the thing is, the joke of the matter is that he will probably, whatever club he goes to, I guarantee you, in the first season, he will win a bloody World Trophy and he will probably score the winner because he's got that ability. But at Tottenham, and with the cockerel on his chest, mate, he just can't do it no more. And this is what I'm saying. Like that today, how long was he on for? Including the second half, what, 20 minutes in total, maybe, at a guess? That's his last 20 minutes, mate. That's his last 20 minutes. For me, the decision should have been made that, and
23 minutes.
There you go, right? And I know this might sound controversial, but I would have put Tanganga on at left centre-back. Now, when Tanganga made his name, it was a left centre-back against Liverpool. Do you know what I mean? And this is in the back three. He's a younger guy. He's hungrier. He's got more to prove. There's a little bit more faith behind him when it comes down to the fans because he's one of our own and he's a younger kid that's coming through. It's another one that hasn't had minutes. It's another one that hasn't had any time to get into a rhythm. And we can give that excuse to Sanchez as well. He hasn't had any time to get into a rhythm. But at the same time, I think we would have given Tanganga a lot more leeway and a lot more faith to kind of go, all right, Sunshine, go on. Because today was the last nail in the coffin for Sanchez, I believe. And from a fan's perspective, but also from his perspective, I think with him coming off the field and being booed like that, and I didn't know he was crying, Craig. I thought he was sweating, and I just saw him disappointed. I didn't know
he wasn't working hard enough to sweat.
He weren't sweating, mate. No.
Well, there we go. So if he was crying, to me, that seals the deal. That seals the deal. That's the last game that he's gonna want to play for Tottenham. And with the remaining games, I don't think he should be able to play for Tottenham again because I don't think he's going to be in the right mental state to play for Tottenham. He might be fit, he might be able, but he's not going to be mentally fit to go into those games and kind of do the job that we're going to ask him to do. Especially, we don't know what's happening with Longley right now and how long he's out for, if it's just a knock, if it's just some ice on the ankle, will he be back next game? We don't know right now. But you know,
you're right though, Rick. He ain't good enough. He's not good enough. But Longley ain't good enough. Longley's not good enough.
And do you know what? I would like to ask you your guys' opinion. Who would you prefer at left centre back, Davies or Longley?
Ben Davies all day.
Davies. Right. So if Davies is a better left centre back, why are we even considering spending 14 million on a left centre back? Go and get Ndika on a free and let him work with Davies. I prefer Davies as a left centre back stroke squad player for the future because he's shown so much. He leaves everything on the field every time he comes on. And yes, he will make a mistake, and yes, some things won't go his way. But my goodness, Davies is always leaving his last legs on that field. He puts everything out there all the time. Do you know what I mean? And we're seeing how much we're missing him being in the squad, him being injured right now. So if Longley's not better than Davies, what's the point? What's the point in spending any money? What's the point? Go and spend it on Ndika, who you can get on a free.
The interesting thing, though, Rick, is how many reports come out stating that Tottenham are just about to get deals done when we don't even have a permanent manager in place.
But that's what I'm saying, mate. It's a club signing. They're all club signings now.
Yeah. Craig, let's come to you. In stoppage time, at the end of the first half, Sanchez blocked a shot. I think that's probably the best thing he done in the game. And then at half time, a few boos around the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Shortly after that, Solanke put Bournemouth 2-1 up. What did you make of that goal?
Yeah, comedy of errors again. Absolute comedy of errors. bad defending. Again, you should be obviously Bournemouth. Any team you play in the Premiership are going to carry a threat, but it seemed like we all switched off again, and it's just not good enough, is it? It's like they look solid at times, our defence, and then other times it's like they've never played together. That's what I don't get. In that first half, Dyer was stepping into the midfield, winning the ball high, and I thought that that looks quite good, and then we just drop back and back and back, and it's just I'm just surprised, to be honest, that Bournemouth didn't have that many chances from what I remember, but it seems they just capitalized. Wait, is it just me and you here, Rick? Or what?
It's just me and you now, Craig. But it's
crazy,
wasn't it? But wasn't it Sanchez that knocked it into the path for Solanke?
Yeah, it was. It was.
Go on.
To be fair, he got a toe in, and it just deflect. It didn't even deflect. He like passed it to him in the end, and he was sloppy, but he got done initially. He didn't get the tackling, and he went round him, whoever it was. So it was poor defending. It was terrible defending, but again, like coming back, you said about Tanganga. I wouldn't have been disappointed to see Tanganga get the nod ahead of Sanchez, because I just think he is a better player. And I don't really rate Tanganga. I think he's a decent enough squad player, but I would have rather seen him on the pitch than Sanchez. It's just so sad. But what actually going back to, I think it was you were saying, he's outside now.
He's been kicked out. He's been kicked out.
That's it. It did prove we can play a back four, because we look better with a back four, with Porro. So that's blown that out of the water, isn't it? That you can have there is room for a Maddison type player in the middle there for playing an extra man in midfield and four across the back, because Porro's still got forward. Perisic still got forward. So anyway, we only just into the second half, Chris, haven't we? How much more of the game we got to
go? I've got to say that, do you know what, on Tanganga, I think we're doing a bit of a Carl Walker-Peters with him, where I felt that with Carl Walker-Peters, he needed a season-long loan just to get some rhythm, just to get his own game, and to show not only the club, but himself what type of player he is. Do you know what I mean? And I think we're missing out with Tanganga, where we've kept him at the club just in case, where he needs a loan, at the very least, just to get that rhythm and to show the club. The same way it happened with Carl Walker when he went to Aston Villa. We would have done the same with Carl Walker if it wasn't for that Aston Villa loan, where we saw him week in, week out, develop, progress, score goals, make assists, and then we're like, oh, we want Carl Walker in our side. Carl Walker-Peters came in, and he never got any rhythm at all. And this is the same thing happened, where we just kept him just in case, and then the games that he came in, he flopped or he didn't do as well. And I think the same thing's happening with Tanganga right now. He needs a loan out for a season at the very least, for us all to see what he can do, and for himself.
Well, when we were 2-1 down, Pochettino's name was being sung around the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Of course, Davinson Sanchez then went off and Danjuma come on. Jake, the right decision for you for Danjuma to come on? Because, of course, a lot of fans have been crying out for him to get game time in a Tottenham Hotspur shirt this season.
Yeah, I'd say it was the right time, the right decision, but long time. It's just, I don't know why he's had to wait so long. I don't know what he's had to do. But it's great. It's the only positive from today that he came on and he showed them that they're wrong, that they've been. And I don't know what it's like. I can't fathom what we all know from social media. He's been training hard. He's been working hard. He comes on. He's got pace. He's strong. He works well with the other players. He seems to know exactly what's expected of him. I don't know this. My only theory has been that obviously we've got him on loan, that there's an obligation to buy if he plays so many games, that Levy said only use him if you have to, because I can't understand otherwise why on earth they wouldn't be playing this. I think he's got exactly what we need, and especially with Kulusevski not performing the way any of us, including Kulusevski, want him to perform. We've got we know just how footballers work. It's always the same. If you get another player come in to test you for your position, it puts a rocket up your bum and it makes you perform. The perfect example of this is it even made Emerson Royale good. So it's what can happen. You bring in someone else and it makes you fight for your place. And we could have had that. We could have had two fantastic options down the right, but instead we've just not been using him. And the one positive from today, and there's not many positives that we get at the minute at Tottenham, but is that Danjuma proved them wrong for not playing him, and I thought he looked brilliant.
Yeah, it's interesting how you say that, Jake, because I think that Emerson Royale would have probably put in a better performance than Pedro Porro today.
True.
Ricky, let's come to you. In the 61st minute, Tottenham Hotspur had a corner, flicked on, Perisic blasted over the bar. I've got to admit, me personally, I expected so much more from Perisic this season. I know he's provided a number of assists, but scoring goals, I think the only goal he's scored so far this season is Southampton away.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I would have expected a lot more goals from Perisic, but you know what? He did get in. I mean, especially that first half, he was putting in cross after cross, and he was selling those defenders with his dummies left, right, and centre. Every time that he kind of done a step over and then cut back in, the Bournemouth defenders was going a totally opposite way. So I think we were building on that, but then suddenly we're 2-1 down. Suddenly we're 2-1 down. We bring on Davinson Sanchez, and suddenly we're 2-1 down, and then suddenly we're on the back foot again. So then the whole game changes, you know. I do think that Perisic had a better game today. But again, like, yes, I do believe that he should have scored that at least, or at least got it on target, at the very least, because of the quality of the player, the experience of the player, and the fact that he's been in those games where you need to get a goal to get over the line, whether that's at Inter Milan or whether that's for the national team. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, but it is what it is. He's here for a season. He's here for the next, 9 games left? 8 games left, wherever we're at right now. And then he'll be back with Conte wherever he ends up. So that's what we got. And he's the only left footer right now. You know, if Longlay's out, we ain't got no Longley, we ain't got no Davies. So the only left footer we've got right now that technically plays in defence is Perisic, even though he's not a defender. We can't do nothing.
Craig, in the 77th minute, Oliver Skip came off and Richarlison come on. Richarlison is still without a Premier League goal for Tottenham. What did you make of his performance?
He was all right. I mean, he was a bit unlucky that I think it was Son was ruled offside for his goal that wasn't. Run about a bit, give you what you expect. But I would hope that he gets a few more minutes in the next few weeks, because I think we just need to change it up a little bit. I don't know who you drop, perhaps Kulusevski, and put him out on the right, because I don't think Danjuma is going to get a start unless they change formation and they can somehow put all 4 of them on the pitch. But it's difficult to judge his performance on that short amount of time, to be honest with you. But he did make a bit of a nuisance of himself, and I thought he was very unlucky to get the goal chalked off. It was just typical. But I think if that had stood, we may well have gone on to win the game. But it's all if buts and maybes, isn't it? But at least it's good to see him back on the pitch anyway. I think it's good to have another option.
Craig, what did you make of Danjuma's goal for Tottenham? Tottenham's equaliser 2-2.
Yeah, it's a great strike. Great strike. I did worry for a second that Kane was going to be called offside. I mean, you wouldn't have seen it, but they did go over it, and I've seen them given actually as offside, because you could argue that Kane was slightly in the goalie's vision. I was quite surprised it was given, actually. I thought when you see it from the angle behind, you could see that they would have looked at that for a little while, but thankfully the goal was given, although it didn't really mean anything in the end, which was a shame. But yeah, it was a great strike, and I'm glad he got his goal. So I mean, he's got more goals in the Premier League than Richarlison, which is bizarre, isn't it? Really, but it's what it is. What a club! What a club! I've kind of run out of things to say. I mean, it's unbelievable, isn't it? It's like we tend to come on here and we say the same things. It seems like week after week after week, and nothing changes. That's the mental thing about it, you know. definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, as we've said many times. And, you know, we just seem to do it week after week. And I wonder what Daniel Levy, because I did hear the Levy out chants before the Pochettino ones. I wonder what he would have thought of that. And, you know, he must have heard the Pochettino chants and he must have heard his own Levy out chants. I mean, perhaps he's got such thick skin that you don't give a toss. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows?
Jake, lastly, of course, Bournemouth won the game, their third goal. Talk us through it.
I can't, because my stream went down and I didn't bother to try and find another one. The stream went down. I put on TalkSport 2 thinking, quick, let me hear. And then they just started going, all I heard was, and their away end have gone crazy. And I went, off, forget it. So, sorry to say, but I'm losing that today. I haven't seen it and I never will.
Ricky, do you want to talk us through Bournemouth's winning goal?
I think it's best. We leave it to Craig. Actually, I'm with Jake right now. I'm going to lean on this side. Go on, Craig. Go on, sunshine.
Well, they I wouldn't say they hit us on the break, but we had a lot of players up the pitch. It was bad defending again, and he slotted it round Lloris. It was a good finish, to be fair to him. And the away end did go mad, and the Tottenham fans started to leave the stadium. I think a lot had left actually before Dan Juma's equaliser, to be honest. But 6 minutes of injury time after that, and we just I can't remember whether Richarlison's header was after they'd scored. To be honest, it's a bit of a blur. So, but you know, could you say they deserved the win? Probably not. But I don't begrudge them it, to be honest, because we didn't deserve to win that game either. So yeah, that's all I've got to say on that as far as Gumber today.
Final two questions for you all. Where do you think Spurs will finish in the Premier League at the end of the season? And who will be the Spurs manager at the start of next season? Jake, let's start with you.
Okay. I think we will, and I'm not nice. I think we'll finish 6th. I think with the way we've performed against the teams we've had, I mean, Bournemouth at home, if you can't win that, then you've got United. We know what we do against United, especially at ours for some reason. We seem to be worse at home against them. Away at Newcastle, even despite their result today, Liverpool are our banana skin anyway. We can never seem to do anything against them. Not since I think Wanyama's brilliant goal against them in 2017-18 season. I think it's the last time I remember us sort of getting anything. I might be wrong, but I think it's the last time I remember us getting anything against them. But I think 6th, and I think, because I want to put it out there, I think, well, maybe it's what I want, but I think I'll go Pochettino. 6th, Pochettino.
What are you thinking, Rick?
You know, I can't disagree with Jake, but I'm everything that he said there. I mean, with the form and with the way that it's going, it looks like it's more likely going to be 6th. But I'm going to say 5th. I'm going to say 5th just because. And if they want to really fix this club, then next season they've got to go for Pochettino. Company is not the one, nor is Rodgers, unfortunately. Company is not the one. Company, if you think about Company, I would like everybody to think about Steven Gerrard and Frankie Lampard when they went from a kind of championship club or the Scottish side and they've gone into the Premiership. It just didn't work. Do you know what I mean? And Company would use us as a stepping stone to get to Man City. So I'm not with that. I think we need a lot more than just Company to come in for a season and then sack him and then ruin his reputation and his future going forward. Do you know what I mean? So we need Pochettino at the club, and if they want to fix this club, then that's what I think that needs to happen for next season. He needs to come in ASAP. But 5th and Pochettino for me.
Craig, what are you thinking?
I'm going to give you 2 answers: what I wish for and what I think will happen. Obviously, I hope 4th and Pochettino, but I think it will be 5th, and God forbid Brendan Rodgers or Company. Company's kind of lesser of those 2 evils. I think if Rodgers comes in, it will be a bit toxic, to be honest with you. I don't think the fans are giving much time. Company, I just think the job's a bit of a step up for him. Not saying he couldn't handle the players or anything like that. He seems quite a robust guy, but I just think with the fan base and everything, it is a hell of a step up from Burnley to go to Tottenham. If I was company, I'd stay at Burnley for a season in the Premier League and then see what my options are. I don't think Rodgers is the answer. I think we'd be almost back to square one. I don't think that's going to inspire people like Harry Kane either. And for me, and that's what I'll sign off with, whether people agree with me or not, there is but one man for the job that can galvanise the whole club, and that is Mauricio Pochettino. And that is who I believe we should get down on one knee and propose to and beg and get him back, because it sounds like he would come back. And I don't care if people don't agree with me. That's what I want. That's what I want. And I genuinely think he is the only person on the planet that can sort this absolute mess out.
And would want to sort the mess out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, completely.
I wouldn't be at all surprised if Brendan Rodgers is the next Spurs manager.
Christ.
It's not what I want, but I wouldn't be at all surprised. And I think, sadly, we finished 5th in a Europa League spot. Craig, Jake and Ricky, thanks so much for joining me this evening, especially after a defeat. It's never easy talking about a defeat, particularly in that fashion. Jake, tell us all about your podcast and tell us all about the tour that you're about to go on.
So, yeah, the podcast is Make It Better. It's uplifting. If you need a bit of balance in your life, I can't recommend it enough. My tour, I recommend looking at the tour. The tour dates will be out soon. I'm doing the Soho Theatre in London. They're sold out, but I'm adding another date. I would say when the date comes out, just make sure it's not a date that Tottenham are playing on, and I'll definitely be on my best. If it's a day that Tottenham are playing, the gig can go either way. Not promising anything. Also, if you're coming on a day when Rodgers is announced, the gig's off.
Jake, a pleasure having you back. Thanks so much. And
thanks, mate. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Ricky, tell everyone where they can find you, what you're up to at the moment.
They all know where they can find me. They can find me on Twitter at Ricky J Norwood there, or on Instagram at official Ricky Norwood. I've just done a fantastic audition. It went really well. I don't normally talk about auditions on here because I don't like to jinx anything, but if it goes the way that I hope it goes, I will let you know what's happening really, really soon. So yeah, fingers crossed for that. Jake, bro, you've got to hook us up with some VIP tickets, mate. Do you know what I mean? So we come down and support the show at some point. Chris travels the bloody world country to go and watch Tottenham. He needs a giggle in his life. Do you know what I mean? So let us know. All right, get us in the VIP circle and we'll make it happen. We'll come down and support the show. But you guys know where you can find me. I'll either be on here or talking Tottenham somewhere, and I'll be somewhere when I announce it. But yeah, all good, my friend, all good. Chris, my friend, it's always an honor and a pleasure, regardless of the result. I'm sorry I ranted today, but I had to get it all out. So, love, peace, and hair grease, and get home safe, Chrissy.
Thank you, Ricky. And pleasure having you back, Craig. Tell everyone where they can find you.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, if you really want to follow me, it's at DM9 on Twitter. Little bit of good news. Chelsea lost today. So, again, Fat Frank lost. So that's great. I was having a fairly good weekend up until today. Being a bit of a Trekkie, I know that don't interest everybody, but if you're at least be interested, go and watch Picard on Prime. That will cheer you up, because if you are a Next Generation fan, last night's episode was nostalgia superb. So I was very happy, because I was so pleased watching that episode, seeing actors from my I wouldn't say youth, because I was probably in my early 20s watching it, but it was just fantastic. But Spurs come along and ruin what was a pretty good weekend up until that point, but you're kind of used to it, and but thanks for having me on, Chris, and I think I'm back on in a couple of weeks, so let's hope for a winner.
Well, Craig, Jake and Ricky, thanks so much for your time this evening, and hopefully Spurs can get back to winning ways soon. But we do have Newcastle, Manchester United and Liverpool next, so who knows what we'll be talking about next Sunday. Hopefully see you there. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening. And until the next time, come on, you Spurs.
Come on!